Hello. Hello.
Hello, Zin.
Yeah. Am I audible? A very good afternoon, all. So, as you all know, we are having a webinar today on the topic uh, effect of COVID-19 on Indian economy. So, let's start.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. I am Alina Shaju, Program Coordinator from S1 BCom FNT. It's a privilege for me to be part of this great intellectual gathering where our college proudly hosts this webinar titled COVID-19 Impact on the Indian Economy. Let me extend each and every one of you present here a hearty welcome. Shantigiri College has always been relentlessly putting in the best of their efforts to provide quality education and to develop global competence in all learners. Through the multitude of the events that has been organized till date and are yet to be organized, we look forward to develop innovative, and reflective thinkers, and to equip them with the 21st century skills. This webinar is brought to you by the Department of Commerce in association with IQAC and hosted by the first semester BCom students. To enlighten our day, we ought to seek the blessings of the Almighty. Let me welcome Jeedu Matthew from S1 BCom FNT for leading the prayer.
Almighty God, we thank you for the gift of another new day. Bless us and help us all this day to bring help to others, credit to ourselves, and glory to our institution. Give each one of us the strength to do our task, the humility to admit our mistakes, and the courage to make new beginnings. And so, when we lay ourselves to sleep tonight, may it be with the knowledge of the day well spent. Amen.
Thank you, Jeedu, for the graceful prayer. Now, I would like to welcome Hanok Kurian from S1 BCom FNT to deliver the welcome address.
Good afternoon and a warm welcome to this webinar. On behalf of Department of Commerce, I would like to thank all dignitaries and attendees for joining us on this wonderful day. Shandiri College has always enabled all students to aspire, create, and excel in order to empower them as global citizens. On this note, I'm much delighted to welcome Father Paul Parakatil CMI, the Principal, Shandiri College of Computer Science. Welcome, Father, to this webinar. Father Dr. Bobby Anthony CMI, Principal, Shandiri Institute of Management. Welcome, Father. We are glad to have you with us. Father Dino Kalikatil CMI, Bursa, Shandiri College of Computer Science. Father, welcome to the session. Father Anish Shirdanikal CMI, Administrator, Shandiri College of Computer Science. Glad you could join us this evening. Welcome, Father. Thank you, Fathers, for blessing this occasion with your virtual presence. As COVID-19 has taken a toll on all our lives and we adapt to a new way of working and learning, we have with us Mr. Mohammad Azim to give an insight on the impact on Indian economy. Sir, it's an honor to have you with us. I also welcome the IQAC coordinator and the head of Commerce Department, Mr. Joshi M. Varghese, who has been an integral part in setting up this webinar. And there's the faculty and students who have put their best foot forward for the success of these events. To draw my welcome address to a close, I express my heartfelt gratitude towards all who have kindly accepted our invitation and have joined us to grace this occasion. Thank you and have a great day ahead.
Thank you, Hanok. A man with immense knowledge who completed his bachelor's degree and master's from Jamia Millia University, Delhi, and is pursuing his PhD in finance in Department of Management Studies, IIT Roorkee. It's my pride to welcome our guest, our speaker, Mr. Mohammad Azim, for his session. A friendly reminder, an interactive session of 15 minutes will be provided after the webinar. Sir, the platform is all yours. Sorry for the delay. Sir, the platform is all yours.
Hello. Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Hello, Mr. Mohammed.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Yeah, please.
Uh,
The platform
okay.
is yours.
Sorry, sir.
Yes,
Yes.
thank
Sorry
you.
for the interruption. So let's start the webinar. As you know, all that today we are having a webinar on the topic COVID-19 impact on Indian economy. So today we will discuss about what is COVID-19, how it have affected the world economy and our own country economy. And in that we will include how it have affected the various sectors, what is the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on migratory labor, impact on unemployment, and what are the various taken by the government and the RBI to mitigate the economic disturbance caused by the COVID-19. So, what is uh, what is coronavirus? Coronavirus is an infectious respiratory disease. Basically, it is a disease which affects the lungs of a person and apart from the other various body organs like heart and liver. So, coronavirus is an infectious respiratory disease caused by severe acute respiratory syndrome, coronavirus 2, SARS-CoV-2. This life-altering disease originated in Wuhan, China in December 2019 and uh, and found that it have affected around 4 million cases worldwide. And as on 8 November 2020, there have been 14 million to 42,837 confirmed COVID-19, including 1 billion death reported to WHO in India alone. So it have affected the various sectors and the aspect of the various economies. Like there have been supply shortages. The crisis already transformed into an economic and labor market shock, impacting not only the supply but also the demand. What is astonishing that the WHO have warned the world economy in 2009 only, but the various government didn't tackle it well till date. So as per a report in 2019 by WHO and World Bank, it is estimated this pandemic will cost around 2.2 to 4.8 of the global GDP, and it have affected 150 countries around the world. And as per Trade and Development Report 2020 by UN Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD, said on Tuesday that the world economy is experiencing a recession and a still unchecked pandemic. So there will be around 6 trillion short global output this year alone. As per UNCTAD, expect that the South Asia GDP will be contract by 4.2 in 2020 and it will recover to only 3.9 in 2021. In the case of India, the baseline scenario is a sharp recession 2020 due to the strict lockdown measures. Now, uh, coronavirus has affected the of about trillion dollars only to Indian economy. The coronavirus has deteriorated the economy of all affected countries, including the developed. India, before the pandemic, was going through the recession and all other things. So it is being forecasted that it contract the Indian economy by 5.9% in 2020, as per the UN report. Pandemic has created a rooted impact on the Indian economy, negatively affecting its GDP, unemployment rate, inflation rate, domestic and trade, financial markets, government budget, and various other macroeconomic factors. How did it started in the India? So the first case of corona came in Kerala in late January 2020. The government of India took various precautionary measures to restrain the spread of the virus. And on March 22, 2020, government of India suspended all international travel. And the same day, our Honorable Prime Minister Modi called for a 14-hour Janata curfew, which extended for a period of 70 days. The first lockdown announced created widespread panic, specifically among the economic marginalized strata of the society. And they were the most affected section of the society with the pandemic. The macroeconomic impact of COVID-19 on Indian national and subnational level is uncertain. So the government can mitigate the loss caused by this virus or the pandemic. India has already been undergoing certain economic distress. On September 7, India over Brazil were with 4.2 million confirmed cases to become the country with the second highest number of cases in the world. Initially, there was not the cases rising with a very slow speed, but as the time passes, the case increasing with a rapid. On September 16, the number of confirmed cases surged past 5 million. And if the current trend continues, India may soon become the world's worst country, surpassing the US. Come to the data part of how the COVID had affected the Indian economy. So as per the official data released by the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, the Indian economy affected by 23.9% in the second quarter, April-June. This is the worst decline ever recorded since India started compiling GDP statistics on a quarterly basis in 1996. And as per the NSDL data, foreign portfolio investors have won huge amount from India of amounting $247.76 billion from equity market and $140.50 billion from debt market. Within a short span of days, we can say from 1 to 13 March 2020. And it has affected the oil price as well. So there was a 80 low in the fall of crude oil prices from $65 to $22 per barrel in January to March period. So the fall in the crude oil have cut India's current account deficit, which was around 1.55 of GDP in 2019 to 2020, as per Economic Survey 2020. So as we can see, the Indian economy was growing. The quarter-on-quarter growth of the Indian economy from the period October to November 2019 was 1.2%. And in the next year, when there was a rise of the COVID cases in India, the Indian economic growth on quarter grew around 5%. But in the next very quarter, the growth fell by negative to 9.3%. The UN warned that the coronavirus pandemic is expected to have a significant adverse effect on the global economy, and most significantly, the GDP growth of India. For the present economy is projected to decline to 4.8%. Similarly, the UN Economic and Social Surveys of and the Pacific region have reported that the COVID have extensive socio-economic consequences in the region, with inundated activities across border in the area of tourism, trade, and financial linkages. So these are the various projections by various entities of the GDP growth of the GDP in India. Like major financial institutions have estimated that there will be a lower growth for India by 0.5 to 1.5%. So as per Moody's, for the financial year 20, the estimated growth of the India was around 6.6% in the positive cases, and in the adverse case it will be 0.5%. And as per OECD, it was 6.22% in the normal case, and in the adverse case it was 5.51% in the initial stage. And as per UBS, it was 5.6% in the positive case, and in the worst case it would be 5.1%. Similarly, Barclays and FinTech have reported like 5.9% and 6.5% in the positive case, and 5.6% and 5.4% in the adverse case. So the next image shows the adverse effect of the coronavirus on the aspect of the various sectoral aspects of the economy. Like automotive sector will be the most hit by this current virus. So there have been a projected growth of around minus 23.1%, and on power there will be a growth of around minus 18.3%. On IT and FMCG, healthcare and telecom, there will be a negative growth of 16.2%, 16%, 9.2%, and 3%. So this data has been acquired from Ministry of SPI, Commerce Ministry, in their report titled Indian Economy Braces for Coronavirus Induced Shock as Curve Set to Pull Down Growth, published on 15 March 2020. So this data was of the when the virus was in the initial stage. But as we all know, so after the second and third quarter, the virus hit badly the Indian economy. So like these are the various estimation of the GDP losses in the best case, moderate case, and the worst case. So these are all the hypothetical figures. So in the best case, the loss of the GDP will be around 60 million dollars of various sector, and around 1.109 in the moderate case, and 196 in the worst case. So this is the data acquired from the Asian Development Bank. As we all know, the coronavirus have a multi-sectoral impact on the Indian economy. While the travel and tourism services, mining and construction service remain the most affected industry, with a decline of around 23% between the second quarter, April and June 2020. For the Indian economy, private consumption and investment are the two biggest engines for growth. However, during the first quarter of 2020, private consumption accounted for 59% of Indian GDP, declined by 27%, while investment by private business fall by 47%. However, there was the Indian net export turned positive due to sharp compression in import. During the quarter, first quarter, government spending increased by 16%, but it was not adequate to compensate for the decline suffered by the other engines of growth. Except for agriculture, all the major sectors of the economies were badly hit. Significantly, labor-intensive sectors such as construction, real estate, retail trade, transport, and manufacturing contracted sharply during this quarter. So, this is the data showing how the service and the manufacturing sector were affected during this current year and the past year. So last year there were all the manufacturing and the service sector was doing well, but after entering 2020, so there have been a fall in the progress of the manufacturing and the service sector. Now we will see how the virus has affected the various industries of the Indian economy. First, we will start with the tourism, hospitality, aviation, and retail. The tourism industry is the most affected due to the COVID crisis. And as per the World Tourism Organization, estimated a fall of 20-30% in international tourism arrivals. And Indian travel and tourism industry is one of the most impacted sector by the coronavirus pandemic. And as per the Confederation of Indian Industry, CII, and hospitality consulting firm, Hotelivate, tour operator, including both online and offline, as well as inbound and outbound, will lose around $4.77 billion. And the entire value chain linked to travel and tourism is likely to suffer a loss of around 5 lakh crore or around $65.57 billion, with the organized sector alone likely to lose around $25 billion. So the coronavirus pandemic restricted the international mobility, and thus the revenue generated by this sector fall drastically. So the downfall resulted in 0.45% in the growth rate of the GDP of our country. And the CII Hotelivate report says that the shutdown was initially expected to affect the revenue stream till October, have now indicated otherwise only 30% of the occupancy in hotel till the start of the 2021. Currently, there have been an erosion of 80 to 85% of the revenue streams of the hotel industry. The hospitality industry, including branded and branded hotel, will incur a revenue loss of around $19.31 billion. Now come to the aviation sector. Aviation sector contribute around $72 billion to the India's GDP. However, there was a restriction on international travel during the first quarter. So the lockdown affected the Indian due to foreign tourist arrival. There have been a revenue loss of the aviation sector, and in railway sector on July 28, the railway board chairman YK Yadav estimated a revenue loss of around $35 million from passenger train segment only. And the loss of the metro train in all the various metro cities such as Delhi, Bangalore, Lucknow, Chennai, and Kochi was estimated around rupees 2,000 crore. Now come to the retail sector. So retail sector was worth $790 billion in financial year 2019. It accounted to 10% of the country's GDP and around 8% of the country's employment. However, there was a increase in the online retail in the past few years, and it was indicated that there will be a 30% growth in the online retail in 2020 as per National Investment Promotion and Facilitation Agency 2020. The quarter two revenue was affected due to the lockdown which occurred for a period of 70 days. In the retail sector, the suppressed demand has a tendency to revive very fast, and this will enable the sector to recover the losses. However, the online retail was operational in some part of the country during the lockdown period, and this will offset the losses of the industry. Second, restaurant services. The National Restaurant Association of India, which represent around 5 lakh plus restaurants across the country, advises member initially to start line operation from March 2020 till March 31, 2020. The pandemic has affected thousands of dine-in restaurants, pubs, bars, and cafes. By extension, food delivery platforms such as Swiggy and Zomato that are by itself functioning have also taken a big hit. However, the order of Swiggy and Zomato have dropped 60% amid the pandemic. Third, sector which was affected by the pandemic was food and agriculture. Food and culture sector contributed the highest in GDP, amounting to 16.5% and 43% to the employment sector. The major portion of the food processing sector with dairy 29%, edible oil 32%, and cereals 10%. India is number one in dairy and spices products at global scenario. The bricks and mortar agency retail chains are operational normally, but with the shortage of staff is impacting operation during current time. With the shortage of labor, the food processing units are facing a hunch in normal function. But the government is trying to ease out the situation until that the factory have to adjust to work with the low labor count. As there have been a great huge migration in the labor from the various states to their respective hometown. Uh, a study was conducted during the first 2 weeks of May by the Public Health Foundation of India, Harvard TH Chain School of Public Health, and the Center for Sustainable Agriculture, which found that 10% of the farmers could not harvest their crop in the past month, and 60% of those who did harvest reported a yield loss, and that a majority of farmers are facing difficulty for the next season. And as per a report in Business Standard India in 2020 found that due to logistic problem followed the lockdown, tea states were unable to harvest the first flush. Tea export could see a yearly drop up to 8% due to the above result. During the lockdown, food wastage increased due to the affected supply chain affecting small farmers. And however, from 20 April, under a new lockdown guideline to reopen the economy and relax the lockdown, agriculture business such as dairy, tea, coffee, and rubber plantation, as well as associated shops and industries were reopened. A paper was published by Radhika Pandey in 2020, found that MSME enterprises, which have created more than 90% of the jobs in India, employing over 140 million people and contributing 13% of the GDP. Found that there have been a huge migration of the workers to their respective hometown. And they also found that India can have a real and sustainable growth without having a thriving MSME sector. Consumer goods, garments, logistics face a sharp drop in the business. MSME in the service sector are still opening, however, is likely to isolate due to plunging liquidity constraint and purchasing capacity. Sector which depends on import, such as electronics, pharma, consumer durables, etc., are facing a downfall, causing a huge rupture across the value chain. The next sector which is being affected by the pandemic is online business, internet business sector. The online business in today's economy plays a major role with a market share of around US dollar 950 billion. It contributes around 10% to the Indian GDP and 8% to the employment during the financial year 1920. Its major segments are household and personal care product contributing around 50%, healthcare segment contributing around 30%, and food waste sector contributing around 19%. However, the e-commerce sector saw a dip in growth with the pressure on the supply chain delivery and expectation of the consumer on the companies to come up with the new distribution channel focused on direct to consumer routes. In the third week of March, Amazon announced that it would stop sale of non-essential items in India so that it could focus on essential needs. Amazon followed the same strategy in Italy and France, as there was a complete lockdown in India during that period. So there was a need of the essential communities throughout the country. On 25th March, Walmart on Flipkart temporarily suspended some of its service on its e-commerce platform and would only be selling and distributing essentials. The other online sector business such as Big Basket and Groffer also restricted their services due to the lockdown. However, Delhi police to began issuing delivery agent curfew passes to make it easier for the various online sector delivery agents to supply the various essential services to the various consumers. The next sector which was affected due to the pandemic was the energy sector. The night lights and the economic activities are connected. In Delhi, night light radiance fell around 37.2% compared to 1st to 31st March 2019. This was the biggest fall for any metro in India. The India's fuel demand in April 2020 fell around 46% as compared to the previous year. And the consumption of the fuel was the lowest since 2007 after the recession of 2008. The cooking gas LPG sales rose around 12% as per Business Standard India 2020. An international agency report in April estimated that the India's annual fuel consumption will decline by 5.6% in 2020. And the economics and the article in the Economic Times 2020 estimated that the diesel demand will drop around 6% in the current year. By the first half of June 2020, the fuel demand was 18 to 50% of the demand which was before the lockdown. The Indian Oil Minister said that it will take much longer for the growth in demand to be restored to the pre-COVID level. So defense was the other sector which acted during the COVID period. And as per the Department of Military Affairs, led by the Chief of Defense Staff, postponed all the capital acquisition until pandemic recedes. No new major defense deals would be made in the beginning of the financial year 2021. In May, the CDS General Bipin Rawat again emphasized the need for India to minimize costly defense import and boost domestic production. For it, the government of India launched Atmanirbhar Abhiyan. So during the announcement of economic package, the finance minister announced a change in the CDI cap from 49% to 74% for defense. The Corporation of Indian Ordnance Production and a list for the ban of select defense import. The other sector which was affected due to the pandemic was manufacturing. The major companies in India such as L&T, Bharat Forge, Ultratech, etc., suspended or significantly reduced their operation in a number of manufacturing facilities and factories across the country. The iPhone, the Apple iPhone also suspended a majority of operation in our country, and all the two-wheeler and four-wheeler companies production was halted during the lockdown period. The other big giants of the retail industry such as HUL, ITC, Dabur India shut their manufacturing facilities except for factories producing essentials. Now education. So education, initially there was a pandemic affected the education both negatively and positively. Negatively in the initial stage and positively later on with the adoption of the technology. The pandemic has disrupted the education sector as people are forced to stay at home. The school and colleges remained closed ever since the national-wide lockdown was imposed. Many children are struggling to keep up with the challenges of the online classes. Students and teachers in cities, towns, and villages struggle to cope with the demand of the time. From September 2021, however, under unlawful for guidelines, class 9 to 12 were allowed to open on voluntary basis. During post during the current period, there have been the growth of digitalized infused technology in the education sector. While these trends were already in the baby step, they were forced to hit the fast forward bottom due to the pandemic. Now, the education sector is completely based on digital platforms. The colleges and universities are conducting their routine classes being in the comfort of their home with various online platforms such as Google Classroom, Zoom, etc. There have been introduction of software such as digital campus where students can access their college library, fees payment, online exam. This present crisis has highlighted the importance of investing in technologies like cloud data, cybersecurity, self-service capabilities, and e-governance. Healthcare. The healthcare sector was the worst hit in the initial stage, but with the research and development going in the various institutions throughout the pandemic, there have been a mitigation of the loss caused by the pandemic. The healthcare is the epicenter during this unprecedented global pandemic. Lack of medical investment and healthcare infrastructure are the biggest challenges for an effective response in India in a battle against the novel pandemic. Amid the rising cases, lack of healthcare facilities like shortage of beds, lack of protection equipment. According to a survey conducted by local circles, which include responses from 17,000 individuals in around 211 districts of the country. Only 4% patients who needed an ICU bed were able to find one by going through the routine process, while 78% are forced to use connection cloud to secure an ICU bed. Such was the shortage in the healthcare sector. So this is the segmental impact of the coronavirus, like food and beverages. So in food and beverages, there was a development of frozen and instant food industry chain is likely to promote to ensure supply during the pandemic. So the pandemic had led to the stocking of the essential product, apparel and footwear. So there was challenges in the inventory and distribution of the apparel and footwear during the lockdown. So as there was a and before lockdown 4, there was a restriction on opening of the malls and the shop in the various areas of the country. So the place of the so there was a limited sales of these products throughout the country. So the impact on the liquidity. So there was a low impact of the pandemic on pharmaceuticals and power. However, there was a medium impact of the pandemic on gems and jewelry, textile, automobiles and components, consumer durables and electronics. However, there was a severe impact on the liquidity of the during the pandemic on the sectors such as airlines, hotels, malls and multiplexes, poultry, retailers and restaurants. So the impact of the now we come to the impact after discussion of the impact of the pandemic on the country and the sector. Now come on the impact on the COVID-19 on migratory labor. The crisis witnessed a horrifying mass exodus of such floating population of migrants on foot amidst the country lockdown. So there was a fear among the labor, and there was a shortage of secure income sources to the unorganized sector of the community. So despite the assurance from the government, they continue to go back to their homes. Seasonal migration of labor for work is a pervasive reality in rural India. However, there was a migration of millions of people from rural areas to industry, urban markets and farms in search of jobs and secure earning. However, during the and the major migration corridors are from UP and Bihar to Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan and Gujarat. There being a new emergence of new corridors from Odisha, West Bengal and Northeast to Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh, from Rajasthan to Gujarat, from Madhya Pradesh to Gujarat and Maharashtra, and from Tamil Nadu to Kerala are also being created. These migrant workers are being employed in various sectors with around 40 million in construction sector, 20 million in domestic work, 11 million in textile, 10 million in brick work, transportation, mining and agriculture. However, during the lockdown, there was a loss of around 195 million full-time jobs or around 6.7% of working hours globally. Many are the person who lose their job were mainly in low-paid, low-skilled jobs, as per the report published by ILO 2020. ILO in its report described the coronavirus pandemic as the worst global crisis since World War II. And about 100 million people working in the informal economy in India are at risk of falling deeper into the poverty due to the claustrophobic consequences of the virus. And so the Supreme Court sought a status report from the center on the various measures taken by them regarding the migratory birds. So this is the impact of the coronavirus pandemic on the Indian migrant population. Around 83.1% are not able to find the work, and 80.8% are running out of ration, and around 47.8% were not able to return to their villages, and 15.1 people are suffering from various diseases, and 8.7% are having issues with organizing wedding, and 3.5% didn't face any problems, and 2.4% are not able to pay for their education of their children, as per the Jan Survey 2020. Impact on unemployment. So with the effect of the adverse effect on the Indian economy, there resulted in the slack labor market condition that contribute to rising unemployment rate. Lack of funds for business and movement of migrant labor back to their hometown have also resulted in massive unemployment. So the sharp unemployment rate, sharp increase in the unemployment rate was due to the lockdown imposed in the country, followed by the policy of social distancing. During the nationwide lockdown, labor-intensive industries reported the highest rate of employment due to the migrating labor going back to their hometowns. And between period of February and April 2020, the share of households that experienced a fall in income increased to around 46%. The informal sector, which employed 90% of the population, was the worst hit. As a result of Proctor Act, curfews, and closure of business, even the formal permanent jobs were affected. All these lead to a steep rise in the unemployment rate from 6.6% in January 2020 to 24% in the month of May, as comparison to the last figure, last year of 6.3%. So this is the unemployment rate of the current year from January to September 2020. So initially the unemployment rate rise to 3.52% in April 2020. However, there was a fall in the unemployment rate till July. However, after July, there was an increase in the employment rate and then again a fall in the employment rate. So the government of India and RBI have taken various steps to mitigate the loss caused by the coronavirus pandemic. So as we all know, so RBI took the four various steps like open market operation, decrease LRR, reverse repo rate, decrease repo rate. So RBI has been conducting many other monetary operations for the better liquidity management as it scrambles to keep the banking sector healthy in a bid to support the economy in the wake of the novel coronavirus pandemic. So the above measures were taken to control the situation of the deficit demand. This demand resulted in fall in the output, employment, in price, income level of the economy. Hence, with the introduction of these above four steps or measures taken by the RBI, there will be a demand of the economy. So what is open market operation? Open market operation involves buying and the selling of the securities between the central bank, RBI, and the commercial banks. So there is a very low demand for goods and service in the during the lockdown phase. So to increase the demand, RBI purchased bond for rupees 3,000 crore. So this will increase the aggregate demand in the economy, increase the money supply, and increase the lending capacity of the commercial bank. Decrease in the LRR, liquidity reserve ratio. RBI can influence the credit creation power of the commercial bank by making changes in the cash reserve ratio and statutory reserve ratio. So what is CRR? CRR is the minimum amount of cash which is being required by banks to be kept with the central, which is RBI. So, the RBI increased CRR during inflation and decreased the same during deflation. Second, SLR. So SLR is the amount which is being kept by the banks in the form of liquid asset with the RBI. So SLR is increased during the period of during inflation or excess demand and decreased during deflation or deficit demand. And during the situation of deficit demand in the during current period, the RBI decreased the LRR so that there will be the increased credit creation and lending capacity in the economy. There will be more borrowing and increased aggregate demand in the economy. So the next step which the RBI took to boost the Indian economy is decrease in the reverse repo rate. So what is reverse repo rate? Reverse repo rate is the rate at which commercial bank take the borrow fund from the RBI. A decrease in the reverse repo rate will lead to less excess fund deposited by the commercial bank, which means commercial bank will have more fund. So which will result in increased credit creation, more borrowing, increased aggregate demand, and the smooth flow of money in the economy. Other step which the RBI took is decrease repo rate. What is repo rate? Repo rate is the rate at which central bank lend money to the commercial bank for a short period of time. How will the decreased repo rate help the Indian economy? The decreased repo rate will help with cheaper borrowing for commercial bank, encouraging them to borrow more from RBI. With the more fund, come higher lending capacity. Banks can give loan at lower interest rate. There will be a increased supply of money in the economy, and there will be a rise in the aggregate demand. Now, the government have taken various steps to boost the Indian economy, such as introduction of the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, in which there will be a to boost. Government had tried to boost the domestic manufacturing industry, economic packages, protectionism, alternative to China. As we all know that China is the manufacturing industry of China is in stand on number one place throughout the world. Uh, Atmanirbhar Abhiyan. In Atmanirbhar initiative, which translated to self-reliant India, which was introduced by current India for making India a self-reliant nation. In it, emphasis was laid on the fact that the self-reliance does not refer to cutting off from the rest of the world, but being a bigger and more important part of the global economy. As we all know, currently the agriculture sector is one of the most contributor to the GDP of India and employment. So the government is trying to boost the manufacturing industry by providing various subsidies and tax holidays and other incentives. Numerous government decisions have been made under this package, like change in the definition of MSME, increasing FDI in the defense sector, and boosting the scope of private participation in number of sectors. Atmanirbhar Bharat have been referred as a prepaid version of the Make in India scheme. The five pillars on which the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan is based include economy, infrastructure, system, democracy, and demand. So the government of India have providing economic packages to the various sectors and the various section of the societies. Like the government announced the economic stimulus package of around rupees 2 lakh crore, which make up 10% of the GDP as on 12th May 2020 to boost the Indian economy and to stimulate the demand of the country. This package consists of the mix of reform, infrastructure building, support to business, data suffering, and some amount of direct cash support. It also includes collateral-free loans, changes in the FDI policy, provide fund contribution, provident fund contribution, and measure to increase ease of doing business. With the most announcement being related to supply, this policy did not address short-term demand concerns, which may pull down the economy even more. While the package economic package provided by the government was criticized by few as the amount was not sufficient to recover the losses suffered by the various section of the society and the various sectors. And during the last week or last to last week, the current finance minister Nirmala Sitharaman also announced a package of around rupees 2,000 crore to boost the demand in the current economy. Protectionism. India also changed its FDI policy on 18th April 2020 in order to curb the opportunistic acquisition of Indian companies due to the pandemic. However, China could take the advantage of the falling financial economy, leading to hostile takeover. The current FDI policy, which was introduced, does not restrict it. However, the FDI from neighboring countries that share land borders with the India is under scrutiny. alternative to China. The government of India is using the pandemic as an opportunity to attract companies that are finding an alternative to China. Government of India have proposed around 4,61,589 hectares of land for this purpose to be allocated to the companies to establish their office or business hub or factories in India. The government is also looking at the China plus one strategy, which suggests that instead of only investing in China, the diversification of business into other countries is a safer and more economical option in the longer run. Following the pandemic, numerous Indian companies are adopting this strategy by finding alternative supply chains. How, how the conclusion? This small virus has devastated the world country and caused a damage which is beyond imaginable. The spiraling and the pervasive COVID-19 pandemic has distorted the world thriving economy in unpredictable and ambiguous terms. But it significantly indicated that the current downturn seems primarily different from the recession of the past, which had halted the country's economic order. Wherever the various sectors and the variety to understand the magnitude of the pandemic, it is undoubtedly the need of the hour to prepare for a future that is sustainable, structurable, more viable for living and working. So government have to introduce various fiscal measures to tackle the current pandemic. So the recovery in the economy depend upon the timing and the magnitude of the government support, as well as level of the corporate debt and how the companies and market cope with the lower demand. And the government assistant plays an important role here. To, while the policy and reform should be doled out by the government adequately to salvage the economy, the industry, civil society, and community are also have are also need to play an equal role in maintaining the equilibrium. So we can conclude that it's not only the government role to boost the economy and mitigate the losses, but other section of the society such as individuals, corporate, and NGOs and others also have to play an equal role to mitigate the loss caused by the current pandemic. However, every crisis brings a unique opportunity to rethink on the path undertaken for the development of human beings, community, and the society. The current pandemic has a clear message for the Indian economy to adopt sustainable development models, which are based on self-reliance, inclusive framework, and are environment friendly. So, coronavirus pandemic have affected almost all the microeconomic variables of the country negatively. However, we might not know the exact impact of the virus on the economy. It is certain that the country would have a hard time cope with the deep recession complemented with a soft fall in the GDP, and there have been a surge of the employment rate in the country. The now the long-term impact of the pandemic will result of how the masses and the government react to the prevailing situation and the changes made in the policies and the business. The prices increase could occur in the sector like agriculture, so measures should be taken to maintain adequate harvest and keep the supply chain operating smoothly, so that the these various essential needs can be availed by the various sections of the society. The risk of rating downgrade and physical deficit spike will make it harder to borrow and spend in the future. However, the government must increase the scale of direct benefits to specific targets like the MSME and the unemployed by the other scheme like Manrega and Jan Dhan Yojana. As we all know, the unorganized sector people like low skilled worker, farmer, don't have a fixed income source. So they were the most affected with the current pandemic. So there should be a temporary increase in the quantity of food distribution to ensure the food security of the one group. Given the limited nature of available resources and the limitation, the policymakers in India have to carefully weigh the policy option and choose only those that have the largest payoff in the short run as well as the long run. So, overall, we can summarize that there have in number two position in terms of rising coronavirus cases, and all the sectors of the economy have been adversely hit. There have been projection by the various agencies that the economy of the country will fall to below in negatively. However, Government of India can cope up with the negative GDP by including various reform measures, and RBI and other agencies and other sectors of the economy can play a great role in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Asim, for your informative session. To clear the clouds of doubts, we have Q&A session for all webinar attendees. You can post your questions either through our YouTube comment or our Zoom chat. Kindly fill up the feedback form provided in the chat box.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah. So, what's your question? Yeah, I can hear you.
Immediate outcome of corona crisis increased unemployment in our society.
What? Can you repeat?
The corona outcome has created a more increased unemployment except mortality in our society.
Can you type on the chat box?
Okay.
Work culture of working from home have been negatively affecting the people. Like most of us, as we know, India is a developing economy, and most of the people, India don't have the enough resources to tackle the pandemic. Like for example, if we see the student section of the economy, like they need a mobile and other resources like laptop and all, which cost around 10 to or minimum 10 to 1000 or 30,000. So there was not a stable income during current pandemic. So they were the worst. Apart from that, the working from home in front of the system negatively affected their mental health also, and the industry, how the virus have affected the industry, I have told earlier. So the mental health, in short, the mental health was affected of the student section and the other job workers and full-time employees and all. So, so definitely it have hampered the productivity. Long-term effect of the on the economy of the planet. So, during this current time, no, most of the companies are uh, there have been a employee number of most of the companies, and companies are currently not hiring. Most of the companies are not hiring during the current times, and the employees of most of the companies are being laid off. So it will take time to recover from this current pandemic. So the main thing is that a government should invest a significant part of GDP into the healthcare sector, like the investment of contribution of the budget to the healthcare sector is around 8 to 10%, 6 to 8%. So the government should increase the budget in the healthcare sector, and government should increase the number of healthcare facilities in the country by building various healthcare infrastructure, like building hospitals, increasing the number of beds and all, and increasing the number of ICU facilities in the hospitals. And as we know, the number of doctor per person per population is also very less. Like one doctor for around 1 lakh population or 50,000 population is there. So government should increase the seats in the various medical entrances and all, and increase the number of hospitals. And which areas of banking and insurance will be more in demand? So there have been rise in the fintech sector in the current time, like the payment on various platforms such as Bheem, Paytm, and others. So due to which, in last week, NPCI restricted the transaction, the Google Pay and what we say, PhonePe was contributing around 80% of the online transaction, and the NPCI restricted their transaction of overall of other partners to 30% only. So now you can see on PhonePe you can only send around 5,000 per transaction.
Any more questions?
During this COVID situation, which sector? So during this current time, almost all the sectors of economies are being affected. Let's say agriculture, manufacturing, or service. So it will take time to cope up with the current pandemic. But slowly and gradually, all the sectors are being the income GDP contribution of all the sectors are being increasing slowly and gradually.
Hi, Mohammed. I am Joshi, HOD. I have a
Yes,
question.
sir. Yes, sir.
So, Mohammed, I would like to know which phase of the lockdown mainly have the problem with the Indian economy, or which phase of the lockdown um, drawn down the Indian economy? Is it a phase one or phase two, or which one? And
So
how?
mainly we can say the last stage of the phase one. From the phase two stage, the economy of the India was worsened. As during the first is what we say first phase, people were having some saving, so they tackled the pandemic with their past saving. But with the passing of the first phase of the with the passing of the first phase of the lockdown, when the India entered in the second phase, when the second lockdown was imposed, the saving and the other things were already vanished of the, we can say, of almost all the section of the society. So they were facing, as most of the India is being employed in the unorganized sector, so they are not having a stable income, and with the complete lockdown imposed throughout the country, they were facing the finance crunch as compared to first phase, in which they were having some amount of saving to tackle the pandemic.
So, what's your opinion about the FDI policy?
However, first phase also, so currently the Indian economy is being growing in a negative phase, around negatively. So with the introduction of with the increase in the FDI limit in the various sectors, recently by the government, there will be a flow of foreign inflow, so which will help in boosting the economy in the upcoming future. Like we do various kind of imports, and for that we do various transactions with the with other countries also, for which we need a finance. So with the increase in the FDI limit, there will be a flow of foreign exchange into our country, which will help us in making the various transactions. Like we have borrowed the loan, we have taken and that required an interest payment plus a principal amount. So the foreign exchange or the FDI, with the increase in the FDI limit, India will have a certain, there will be an increase in the foreign exchange of our country, which will help in boosting our economy, payment of various loans and interest of taken from the various financial institutions, international financial institutions.
So, what will be the current economic status of India after 5 years, in your opinion?
So in the upcoming 2 years, the economy of the country will be around 3 to 5% only, as India will, it will take time to tackle with the damage caused by the current pandemic, and it has been reported by various international organizations that the growth of the India will be around below 5% only, and it will take time India to heal the damage caused by this current pandemic. And so, and as government have introduced various initiatives such as Atmanirbhar Abhiyan, and various other initiatives have been introduced in the past, like Startup India, Make in India, Stand Up India, Digital India. So government should focus, if government should focus on the startup aspect, so there will be a startup, if there will increase in the startups and all, the startup can provide a revenue or and contribute to the GDP, alongside contributing to the employment as well.
Thank you.
So the initial 2 years, so what are the
Yeah,
positive
Mohammed.
things happened?
Thanks a lot. Yeah.
There is being a question being asked by this. What are the positive things happened to the COVID-19 in the Indian economy. So there has been increase in the healthcare infrastructure in the economy with an increase in the hospitals and all and other facilities. There has been revolution in the education sector as well, as India earlier was doing an offline mode, and now most of the faculties and students are being well equipped and having knowledge of various online education platforms which are being available. And government of India, uh, now most of the students can avail the benefits of various online platform available, such as like SWAYAM, NPTEL, ePathshala.
Thank you, sir and friends, for your lively involvement. As we come to the end of this webinar, I welcome Sona Benny from S1 BCom CA to deliver the vote of thanks.
Gratitude is the Paris blossom which springs from the soul. Good evening, everybody. I feel much obliged to express my gratitude to all the dignitaries, faculties, attendees, students, and each and every one of you who have been in one bar or the other a part of our webinar today. Shantigiri College, especially the Department of Commerce, with the collaboration of IQSC, had the privilege of hosting a webinar on a globally relevant topic, COVID-19 impact on Indian economy. We were at most fortunate to have Mr. Mohammad Asim, doctoral student at IIT, as our distinguished guest and speaker of the day. He enlightened and broadened our perspectives and insight through his section. This for sure has helped us think about a vast array of chances that could be seized in the post-pandemic era. I would like to take hold of this opportunity to express my gratitude to you, sir, on behalf of the college, IQSC, and the Department of Commerce. Thank you so much, sir. If there is someone whom we cannot thank enough, it would be none other than our beloved principal, Father Paul Parikattal CMI. Had he not given us an opportunity to host a webinar today, all of this would have been impossible. He is way more than a principal to Shantigiri College. Thank you so much, Father. We are very much grateful to Father Dr. Bobby Anthony CMI, Principal of Shantigiri Institute of Management, for his words of encouragement. We thank his kindness and support. Thank you so much, Father. Now, let me make use of this opportunity to thank Father Anish Chardanikal CMI, the administrator of Shantigiri College, for the unconditional support he gives us throughout this program. Thank you so much, Father. Next, let me thank Father Dina Kallikar CMI, the bursar of our college, who graced us with his presence and guidance. Thank you so much, Father. My dear friends, let me remind you, Rome was not built in a day. Our webinar isn't any incident that happened overnight. The wheels started rolling days before. There is one person amongst who should be called the Acharya behind this program. It's none other than Mr. Joshi M. Varghese, the IQSC coordinator and the most venerable HOD of the Department of Commerce. Sir, with deep sense of appreciation and gratitude, let me express my gratitude to you on behalf of the college, the entire department. Thank you so much, sir. Behind every successful of a program, a manifold attempt of the participants. I would like to take a moment to thank our dedicated faculties, Mr. Mahesh PR, Mr. Balu Raju, Ms. Sani Susan, and Ms. Sandra Ross. Let me express my gratitude to all the HODs and faculties from various departments. My special thanks to Sean George, our webinar coordinator from first semester CA, and Hano Kurian from the first semester FNT, who excelled as the controller of today's program. Let me also extend my sincere gratitude to all the faculties and students from various colleges who participated in our webinar and made it a grand success. Last but not least, let me extend my deep sense of gratitude to each and every first year students of BCom. They are ones who toiled hard behind the curtain to execute this program today. Thank you all for your untiring efforts. Once again, let me thank each and everyone present here. Thank you so much. Have a great time.
Thank you, Sona. It was a great pleasure having you all here today for the webinar. Let me once again thank each and every one of you and wish you all the very best. With this, me, Alina Shaju, Program Coordinator, signing off. Thank you.